our new processes that we're working on. I'll probably just give you a little general overview of what we're doing and kind of give you an idea what this system is going to look like. I know I always appreciate working with Frank too. I just want to give him some credit for the things that he can do out with you guys working hand in hand where MPC really doesn't have that ability. So it's been a good partnership as well on our end. So we appreciate what Rural Water does and all the work that you guys are doing as well. Just kind of real quick, talk a little bit about what these DMRs are. Obviously, you guys have been doing the DMR stuff for quite a while. Again, they just come right from your permit. So all of you guys have specific DMRs based off your permit. Why do we do these DMRs anyway? This is kind of our way of finding out what's going on at the plant. It's a self-monitoring program, obviously. We have 11 compliance people statewide, so most of you guys are getting to see us maybe once every couple of years, unless you're Brent, and come see a little more because you have flood problems. But and again, it kind of identifies what you're monitoring for. Obviously, now we've went over to the electronic age. In all of our DMRs, everything that you guys get comes off of our website now. You used to be able to get paper DMRs. Obviously, we've gone away from the paper DMRs completely now, so we have just electronic copies, and you submit those DMRs electronically. Currently, you're just doing your monthly DMR sheets, not your dailies. So if you're a municipal facility, you've been doing these supplemental sheets for years and just sending that in as part of your submittal. If you're an industrial facility, you probably haven't been submitting that daily information. What we're moving into now is we need to get that data more electronically friendly. So we'll be working into that a little bit. So kind of interesting thing is we tried a little experiment for you guys. We tried to do, we used to send all the paper DMRs out for a year at a time, so we'd send you a year's worth of DMRs. So we thought, boy, that'd be a good idea. Let's do that electronically. So the first month that we did that, most of the people submitted their data for 2014 instead of 2013. And with electronic submittal, it causes some problems because we can't actually change that because of the federal rules of how the electronic submittal works. So it was a little bit of a mess. So you've probably seen it we went back to about 3 months ahead of what the current date is, just to kind of relieve some of those issues that you might have. So here we are on phase. This is what we'll call our phase 2 of the electronic submittal process. What is it? Well, we want all that daily information now. We want it submitted electronically on a spreadsheet. Basically, it'll go from your spreadsheet right into our database. And the part of the reason that we need that information is, most of it is because of TMDL stuff. I mean, that's been a huge push in the state that we've been having to work on, and having that data a little bit more readily available for TMDLs has been very helpful. Another reason why is we get asked for data quite a bit from different public sectors, and it's, they don't really care to get a big stack of paper DMRs from us, so that's part of it. And then lastly, actually the EPA is working on an electronic reporting rule right now that's gaining some pretty good steam, so I think it's probably going to be required for every state for fairly soon regardless, so we're probably a little bit ahead of the game right now, but I think it'll be a good thing. And like I said before, for those that are industrial facilities, we're going to ask for that daily information now that we weren't asking for from you before. Maybe some of you were, probably weren't, but the type of spreadsheet that we have is going to be, we're going to have 2 different types of spreadsheets that'll be available. It's going to look different than that supplemental sheet that you're used to using now. We spent probably a good year trying to get it to look exactly like the spreadsheet that you're used to using, or that daily supplemental. We tried to get it to look like that as much as we could. We're just asking for a little bit more data, so that spreadsheet just kind of got a little bit bigger, and I'll show you what it looks like here. But so again, we need that raw data, a little bit more friendly, easier access, and then that EPA's working on this electronic reporting rule. regardless. This is kind of something that probably most of you may or may not have seen yet, but our goal right now for all the major facilities, if you're a major facility, if you're for municipal, if you're over 1 million gallons per day, or if you're an industrial facility, there's about 25 of you that are majors. Our goal is to try to get you working on this process and submitting your DMRs, all of them electronically, by your June DMR this coming year. For all the rest of the facilities, except for if you're a pond, if you have a general pond permit, everybody else we're going to try to get you by the end of the year. The general ponds, we're given a little bit more time because we needed to do more technical assistance on the first round with the general pond guys. So we're trying to be a little bit smarter about this implementation this time. We're trying to break it up a little bit more so we have time to come out and visit facilities and try to sit down with you and work on this at your site if you need be. Obviously, we're starting to do a little bit more training too, but all this stuff is available already on our website. But just kind of giving some ideas now. When I say you need to start, these are our goals. These aren't compliance goals like a permit compliance goal. This is kind of our general goal, is to try to get these things so we can phase it in and help other facilities go as we're moving along. So I think we probably at some point, like we did with eDMR, we'll probably have that drop dead date. And I think that'll probably be end of 2016 or the beginning of 2016, so the end of 2015 is what I'm guessing, but we don't know for sure. So we're trying to be a little bit more phased in our implementation with the different types of facilities so we can add a little bit more technical assistance out there. So, I mean, if you want to it's voluntary right now for any facility. You can start doing this. If you're handy with the computer, you can go to our DMR. We have a DMR specific page on our NPCA webpage, and you can go on there. We have a pretty good guidance document that you can jump on, and it'll walk you pretty much step by step through if you're comfortable with computer stuff. Again, like I said, we'll have 2 different spreadsheets. You only have to choose one of them depending on what works best for you and your facility. What we're really trying to do is get our compliance staff, so if whoever your compliance person is for your facility, we're trying to get those folks out and meet you at your site or do smaller trainings with a couple of facilities at one time, and just kind of walk through this with you hand in hand a little bit to get things rolling if you want that. If you don't want it, like I said, you can jump on and give it a try. So just a quick question. How many of you as operators are currently doing all the electronic part of the DMR now? Probably 2/3 of you. Quite a few of you still use a paper copy and maybe give it to the city clerk and have clerk enter it or some process similar to that. So you can still work that way. It doesn't really matter. Just that daily data, instead of maybe coming in as a copy of your paper handwritten, we'll want it electronically on an Excel spreadsheet. So that's the one requirement that you'll probably need to get to move into this is Excel. It doesn't really work well with any of the other available spreadsheet technologies. So I know Microsoft has a kind of a simpler version that's available, and it doesn't work when you get to the uploading part of the data. So make sure if you're going to give this a try that you do have Excel. It can be an older version, 2003, it will work fine all the way through the current version. So yeah, if you have, good point. Tim said if you have questions as we're going along, feel free just to ask.
I got one. So Jeremy, if let's say a small system goes online, does one new one for the month, and says, you know what, I'm going to go back to the old way for the rest of the year. Can they do that?
Good question. With the DMRs themselves, the monthly, once you switched over to it, we didn't allow you to go back. Right now, until we make it mandatory, you can give this a try. We do have, if any of you, if you have your own account, we do have a test portal and I can get you the link, but it's, you basically can go in and practice, more or less, any of the stuff that you want to try and give it a try without actually submitting it, so you can see how it works and it doesn't affect your facility at all. So if you're interested in using a test and want to try that out, that's been a great way, and that's usually what I do when I go out with people. I set them up with this test account so they can mess around with it and feel comfortable with what they're doing before they actually do it live. But until it's mandatory, that's a good point, is you can try it. If you don't really want to keep doing it for a while, we would encourage you to do that, because it'll take a few times. It's probably going to take you 2 or 3 times of doing this until you get kind of feel a little more comfortable. Same with electronic. It's a very similar process, but you just got to use this spreadsheet now that you may not have been used to using before. So one of the things that we've been finding as we go out that's been real helpful just to get things started is we've been encouraging folks to get organized with how you store these spreadsheets that you're working with. So we encourage you to, we'll come out with a little pen drive, we'll pop it in your computer, we'll put some folders right on your desktop, 2014, 15, 16, 17. We'll have all the months in there. So when you take this information off the portal, you can download it right into that file to help you keep a little bit organized. The thing with electronic now is you don't have to keep paper copies if you don't want to. We do recommend that you keep your own electronic copy. Our system is backed up, so at any point if something happens, you lose something, you can go on and pull it right back off of our website. You can print as printable, so you can print it or you can download it and save it right to your computer.
So if you're going out, you're doing your annual or every third year inspections that you guys do out there, and you go there, you're not going to be asking for electronic copy of eDMRs when you go on site, or?
We could, as an inspector could ask you, could you provide us some copies of your DMRs? And if you wanted to pull it up on your computer, that's
off the MPC website?
You can do it off the MPCA website if you choose. You can do it off your own computer. You can do the paper copy still. Typically, most of the inspectors, now that this is all electronic, they're looking at all that before they go out, so they're not necessarily needing to ask you about it. We'll probably be checking to see if there's any issues with your DMRs, and we'll probably maybe bring those with us when we come. But that's a good point. You don't have to have anything. If you choose to be crazy and just leave it up to the MPCA to store it, you can do that. In our stuff, like I said, it is backed up. I feel pretty confident that you won't lose your data. The interesting thing is, right now, if you went on there, there's 3 years worth of data on there. Regardless if you submitted it electronically or not, you can go on there and get it electronically for the last 3 years. So, and that's just your monthly DMRs, not your daily supplemental sheets for those industrial or municipal things. So this is kind of just a real quick snapshot of what it looks like when we're doing those folders. We usually save it right to your desktop, so it's quick and easy to get to for you, and you know where to find it. And this is just kind of what it looks like inside. So if you're a pond guy, you still have to do an attachment for your observations at your ponds. So we have a new sheet for that you can save. The daily values spreadsheet itself, and then the DMR itself. So you would typically, if you're a pond guy, you're probably going to have three things that you're saving. If you don't have a pond, you probably may still have 3, because there might be some other attachment documents that you're adding. It could be mercury sampling. That'll be 2012. We try to start adding all that stuff into your permit now, so it's right on your limits table, so you don't have to do that extra attachment for mercury. And we'll be putting those in all the permits moving forward. But we started that in 2012. So some of you that have a little bit older permit, you may still have to have that attachment. But so here's what that first spreadsheet, and this is kind of what it looks like. This is called our sample value spreadsheet. It's basically a real basic spreadsheet that it pulls up for your facility. It's facility specific. What this will have on it, it'll have all the monitoring requirements that you might have to do in a month for the entire year. So the interesting thing about this is you might do mercury monitoring 2 times a year. Mercury will be on here, on this one, and you might actually leave it blank. So some of the things that you might not be used to doing with leaving blanks, this is a little bit different. So as you get into it, you'll see. The interesting thing about this spreadsheet is it's fairly customizable. And if your permit doesn't change, you don't have to download this document again for the whole life of your permit. So you can download it once, make a master copy of it, and you can doctor it up however you want. If you want to move any of the parameters around and reorder them, and I've got some examples just to kind of show you what you can do. You can do a lot of things. What you can't do is the columns all have to stay the same. So that top column row, that all has to stay the same, but the rows, you can reorder those however you want to. And then again, you have the tabs on the bottom for the stations that you have. So typically you have an inflow and an effluent. You might have groundwater monitoring. The cool thing is you can add as many tabs as you want as well. So if you want to separate the spreadsheet up a little bit, say your mercury or whatever you're doing 2 times a year, you can make a separate tab and put that on a separate tab and only do it on the months that you need to do it. But I just wanted to give you a quick peek of what that spreadsheet itself looks like. This is an operational spreadsheet. The sample value ones obviously looks way different than your current sample or your current daily sheet if you're doing daily stuff. Looks way different. Our attempt at making it look similar is this operational spreadsheet. What makes it a little bit different is it's kind of a one size fits all because we just can't have, we couldn't create a separate sheet for every facility. So basically we're trying to encompass all facilities with one spreadsheet. So as you can see, here's like for one parameter now you have sample time. How many of you guys have to write down the sample time for the samples you're taking? A couple of you because you're doing probably surface water monitoring or something specific that's written out in your permit that it tells you to. So to encompass that, you know, now we have to add that column in there. Just because the column's there, again, doesn't mean you have to fill it out. Also the qualifier, just so it reads into the computer, so if you're doing fecal and you have less than 2, now you have your reported values 2 and you have to put in the less than symbol. Another one that's new too is this variability of operation. There's a handful of facilities, probably 20 or so in the state that have this option. They have tertiary treatment and it's written into their permit where they can choose to not use that tertiary system at times given weather conditions or whatever it might be. So then it would have to, you talk about what you're doing. Again, most of you're not ever going to use that one. And I'll talk a little bit about things you can do as well. And then they also decided to add a comments section for every single day of the month that you're doing. Now this spreadsheet is one that you can download every month and it'll give you the day of the month and the day of the week it is preloaded for you. But it's the same format really as the other spreadsheet. It's going to pull down everything off your permit that you're working on for the whole year. So you may again have ones that are not used in this case. So same as below too. We still have the same tabs on the bottom for the different stations. And I'll go over some of the little things that you can do to make it look a little smaller.
So all of your, like, we're doing the monitoring for nitrogens and salty discharge, would it all be on one sheet rather than a separate sheet for it then?
And that's a good question. You asked our salty discharge, nitrogen series, the different special monitoring things that you've been doing. What we've been trying to do is on all the permits, we've been trying to add those into the limits part of your permit so it'll be on this sheet. So right now, if you're doing salty discharge, it'll be on your new sheet as you move forward. The mercury will be on all of them moving forward from 2012, but if you have a little bit older permit, you'll still have to add that one attachment for mercury. It's probably about the only one that you'll have to do. But that's a good question. Yep.
Next one too is the sample time. When we send it into the lab, we have to put a sample time down, but if it's not in our permit, we don't have to enter it.
Exactly. Yep. So there will be some information on these spreadsheets that you don't need to fill out. So you only have to put the sample time down if it's specified in your permit that you have to do that, and you're doing it. If you're doing it now, you'll have to continue. And most of you, the only time you have to do a sample time is when you're doing a surface water monitoring event. So you're doing a grab, on your discharge point or something. That's where you'd have to do the time of the sample. The nice thing about this Excel stuff is for the columns that you don't use, you can click on it, I'll get into this a little more, but you can click on this little tab on the top and you can hide that column. And you don't see it, so it's a little bit, you can make this a little bit smaller. Both of the spreadsheets are all alphabetical order, so all the parameters come on as alphabetical order. So it might look a little different than the way you want it to. Again, this is all something that you can customize, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So just real quick, I just wanted to shoot through what the process looks like for you right now. So when you log in, these are some of the newer things that are on the login screen. And you can download the sample value spreadsheet. You know, just kind of, it's fairly user-friendly, I think, just kind of a point and click, just knowing which ones you need to do. And again, like I said, we do have help guides, reference guidances on how to do this too, right on our website. But you just kind of log in, grab that download that sheet. It's going to ask you to download it, and then you want to open the sheet first, and then do a save as when you get into it, before you enter any data on it. And then I'd maybe save it as the master copy before you do anything, any changes to it, so you kind of have, you can always go back in and re-download it if you choose. But it's nice just to not have to go in and out of the portal, and save yourself a master copy. So again, this is what it looks like. The one thing that you need to know when it opens up, it always opens up with this little yellow bar on the top, either one of the spreadsheets, and you have to click on this enable editing before you can save it and do anything in it. So it's just basically you just click the button and then you do your save process. And hopefully if you have that folder system set up, then you can just save it right into your DMR folder. So a little bit about this spreadsheet. You can add rows to this spreadsheet, or you can delete rows if you want to delete something. Sometimes you do sampling for BOD, you do it once a month or once a week, let's say. Well, the spreadsheet will have five rows with BOD on it because you could possibly have a month where you do 5 samples. If you don't, you can delete that extra row if you want to. The nice thing is if you don't put a date in there and a value in there, it doesn't read it, so you can just leave it there, leave it blank if you choose. You can add these extra tabs at the bottom if it's something that makes it easier for you, and I'll show you a couple examples when we're done. Again, that time, talking about the time of samples may not be required. In fact, most of you, it won't be. So if you're not doing it now in your permit and it doesn't specify it in your permit specifically, don't worry about it. It's one of those things that you can ignore. If you put something in there, say like precip, you have to put, there's a quick way you can put dates in there. So you might have to do precip monitoring every day. You might have 1 or 2 days in the month where you have precip. If you have a date in there and you don't have any value for that day, it doesn't read anything, so you can always add dates in there if you want to. The one thing that you can't do with the sample value spreadsheet is you can't reorder those columns. The columns themselves all have to stay in this order, because that's the way our database will read it. So you can't change the top columns on how they're ordered. Again, the rows themselves, you can reorder them however you want to. And you can always add, if you want a little space in between parameters, you can put a blank row in there. It's not a big deal on this spreadsheet. So again, this is one, you can download it one time. You only have to change this if your permit itself changes and you maybe get a new monitoring requirement, new parameter or something. Otherwise, basically, you can download this thing one time and save it to your computer. You can customize it, call it your master, and use that until your permit's reissued and something changes. So it's kind of a nice feature that way, is you can get it the way you like it and just leave it that way. So the operational spreadsheet, this is the other option. Now you only have to use one or the other. You don't have to use both, whatever you like. Part of the reason why we did the operational one is it's a little bit more user-friendly for those people that have a little bit more skills with Excel. So if you have your own supplemental sheet that you're using now, you can map this data into this other spreadsheet. So that's kind of why there's 2 options. The other one works much better if you're just doing hand entry, which majority of the facilities are entering it, on the spreadsheet by hand. So same process, just click on that download again, same again, download and open. So this one, if you look at how this one's set up, it's set up with all the days of the month, so it's real similar on the front end to what your supplemental looks like right now. This one doesn't let you add any rows in between. So say you wanted to, for some reason wanted to add a row between maybe like the weekend or whatever and put a space in there, this spreadsheet won't let you put any spaces in there. The way that this spreadsheet is set up, for each parameter, you kind of see that there's like 5 columns for each parameter. So if you want to reorder it, you have to kind of highlight all 5 of those rows and move that whole block. And you can't delete any of the columns in the block. But again, you can hide columns that you don't use to make it a smaller thing. You can reorder things so it fits the way you like it to read out. Same thing with the bottom. You can always rename the tabs and add tabs if you choose to. This one is probably one where you probably wouldn't add any tabs just because it's set up a little bit differently than that other, the sample value spreadsheet. So then the whole process here is basically we want that data electronically. So you fill out the spreadsheet, you save it to your computer, then you have to submit it. So either or, it's the same process for both of them. You just pick whatever style you're using. If you're using the sample values or the operational, you just pick the right one to submit that data. Very similar to what you guys are looking at already. Just click the radio button for the month that you want to submit for, do the next. Still has that same browse feature in it that as it has, that won't change. So you're going to browse, it goes back in. If you use this system once, it'll automatically go back to that same folder every time. So once you do that one time, it'll automatically go back to the same folder for you. Just put in the right one. This one has a validate. There's kind of two options here. There's this validate only and validate and submit. We've talked about getting rid of the validate button just because it does it for you in a 2-step. It does 2 steps in one. So most people just use this validate, and what it'll do is it looks through your spreadsheet and make sure that you don't have any. You can't do any characters. So the good ones like say chlorine in November. Most of you guys aren't adding chlorine in November. You might be used to putting NA there, not applicable, or putting some characters in there. You just leave it blank now. It doesn't accept any letters moving forward. So, and it'll give you a little box up there and tells you that it's validated and it's ready to move forward, or if there's a problem, it'll tell you that there's a problem with some of the data. So this is what that little box looks like. Once you've done that, you click the finish button. That part of the process is done. Now you have to go on to the DMRs that you're used to doing, and it's the same process as before. But one thing that we've added now is that finally we have the calculator tool that we've been talking about for a while. So basically it's just this download DMR spreadsheet, and it gives you an opportunity to pull off your DMR. It'll auto-load all of your calculations onto the spreadsheet for you, and then you can choose to, at that point you probably want to save it down to your system. You don't have to submit that one if you don't want to. The way the calculator tool is set up is it's very accurate, so maybe pond guys, you might be used to doing, an average of an average sometimes for something like your kilogram per day loading. This will figure out what your loading for each day is. So it's just a little bit more accurate. So it's still fine if you do it your way, but to make it work for all the facilities, that's the way the calculator tool is set up. So it's very, very accurate. So you might get a little bit different numbers than what maybe you're used to doing. And we're okay with it either way. But similar process here, just click on the download button. The big thing is to make sure that the calculator tool works, you click on this button here for the month, but it'll tell you if it's been submitted or not. So if you don't have a yes in this box, you can't use, the calculator tool won't work because the data is not there. So just make sure that that box is there. Click that radio button, do the download. It'll open up the DMR, same thing that you're used to seeing as far as the Excel spreadsheet if you're doing it that way, but it'll be auto-populated. Some of you guys that are a little bit lucky, there's a handful of things that it can't calculate yet. One of them is if you have a phosphorus rolling average, like a 12-month rolling average. For some reason, the people programming this couldn't get that to work out. So you might have a box or two that might be blank. So make sure you check that before you just save it and submit it. You might want to verify. Same thing, if you don't have a discharge, it's still that backwards way. It's asking you, did you have a discharge, yes or no? So it's probably just the opposite of what you're used to doing on the old paper ones. Save it again and then review it. This is what it looks like. Just remember too, this is one of the things that we kind of ran into problems with for quite a while actually, is people would submit this data twice because they thought they had to have, say, their influence station open when they submitted it, and then they resubmit it again with their effluent one. The way the system works is that it reads all the tabs that you have down here in one upload, so you don't have to do it twice. And then the cool thing about this, when you use that calculator tool, the one thing that we were finally able to get it to work out is down in this little comment box right here. If you happen to have an exceedance, it'll tell you right there that you have an exceedance of whatever. So if your phosphorus limit is over or your DOD limit is over, it'll give you a little comment right there now and it'll tell you that. So it'll give you that opportunity maybe to go back in and look at your data and see, did I maybe enter something wrong? Did I do something a little bit different than I was supposed to? Or 5 minutes? I really gotta talk fast. So it's the same process. As you upload, you're uploading this data, so you got to submit your DMR just like you're doing now. For those that are doing the upload, download, it's the same process that you're doing for the DMR now. I'll just skip through some of that stuff so we don't want to get to some of the stuff at the end. It's still going to give you the email back to let you know that it's been submitted, and it'll tell you that both of those processes have been submitted to you. So that's still, that feature is still going to be there. Still the same process with attaching. One of the problems that we had a lot of problems with to begin with is a lot of people weren't attaching that daily information. So make sure that you're attaching it if you're still using that old process. A couple different ways we can do it in Excel. You can scan that handwritten one temporarily while we're still transitioning into the new system. If you're really good, you can take a picture of it with your digital camera. We had a few people that did it. As long as we can read it, all the numbers, we'll still take it that way. So, and you can submit it that way as a JPEG or TIFF, which is a typical format for your digital cameras. But I'm just going to kind of skip through a little bit of this attaching because most of you guys are doing that. But the amending process is a little bit different with this. I just wanted to touch on that real quick. Once you start going to this spreadsheet, if you have a problem with the spreadsheet, currently you can just go on. We have an online tool, and you can go right into the DMR itself and change the one box that's wrong. With the spreadsheet, we don't have the ability to do that, so you have to change your spreadsheet on your own copy and then re-upload it. If that makes sense to you. That way you'll have it right on your data, and then all the data will be right on the new one. And then you probably want to re-upload that DMR or go in manually and change the stuff on the DMR. But this is just kind of that general process. Just make sure that you're checking the box for amendment. Otherwise, it won't let you move forward. If you're working on one that's already been submitted, you have to make sure you check that box. Here's what the current system looks like where you can do the online. This is the online tool where you can change the box. You can still do that for the DMR, but the daily value stuff, you have to do the whole spreadsheet. Quote management, I'll skip. If you have problems locking up, just know, especially if you do it on the 21st, don't send us an email. Make sure you call at the bottom of, if it locks up, it'll tell you there's a phone number right on there. Call them, make sure you have your account number. We don't know if you say Bill from wherever, we need your account number, because we don't, it's the only way that we know how to unlock it is through the account number. So make sure if you call, you have your account number handy. It's still going to send you back the same email that you click up and set your stuff up again. I usually tell people when you get to that challenge question thing, print that page so you have it handy so you remember what your answers are, because it's case sensitive to however you spell things and capitals and lowercase, all that good stuff. You can change phone numbers, and this is the one thing that I'd say at the bottom of that deal, there's a thing where you can do account management. If your phone number changes, and we ask, this is one time that I'll probably ask you guys to put your real phone number on here, because if they have to call you and they get to City Hall, they're probably only going to call once and leave a message. So if you're in crunch time, this is where you want to have your actual phone number. So, but you can do different things through that account management. Most of this is pretty common stuff that we're already talking about. I just want to get to a point real quick where I can show you really quick, just a couple. I just want to show you a couple real quick spreadsheets so you can kind of see what some doctored up ones look like. So just real quick, just kind of show you what I had done with this spreadsheet is I just took all the things that you do daily, and we just, so this would be for, this happens to be a mechanical facility that does once a week monitoring. We switched it all around on the parameters that you do daily. We put those all at the top. For the ones that you do once a week, you know, when you get your lab sheets, we just tried throwing those all together. I added some tabs at the bottom for this particular one, had to do mercury monitoring April and September. We added a tab. So in this particular case, well, this was the nitrogen, but we just added a tab. If you add a tab, the only thing you need to do is make sure you copy over the top of the header from the station that you want to move things around. So there's lots of different things you can do with this one. And again, this is one where you can do all your customizing, save it, and you don't have to change it again. The operational one, you can download, you can choose to download that one each month, and it'll, basically all it does is pre-populate your day of the month for you. But it's the same thing. So if you don't want to do that, there's a quick way to do adding dates on let's show it real quick. So if you just see, you can see when you put your cursor over to the side, it changes from the big white cross to this little black cross. If you get it to that, you just highlight or just click and hold and drag it down, and then automatically you do it by order for you. So there's a couple little tricks that you can do. How many of you guys use YouTube right now to look up how to work on a pump or do some repairs, or is it a few of you do that? I did it for using Excel because I'm not really good with Excel either, and there's tons of little 2 or 3 minute clips on how to use things in Excel. So if you don't feel comfortable, if you use YouTube now, it's a pretty easy thing. It walks you through step by step a lot of these different processes. So if you have questions more on spreadsheets and stuff in the future, feel free to contact me, contact your compliance person.
You know what, I left about 2 minutes here for any questions, and I hope not 100 hands go up in the room at the same time here. So, you got any questions for Jeremy right now? Go ahead.
If you have a lab accident and you don't have any results, what would you put in some of the...
Depends on if you're from Aura or not. If you have a lab accident, you should be able to get some kind of documentation from your lab where they can document, any kind of paper documentation you can get from the lab, you really want to get that. If you don't have the data, you just put a comment in there, and I would actually scan that, whatever they give you, and attach it right to the DMR.
Robert?
Where's the pond level section?
For the pond, there's a new, it's a spreadsheet that looks the same as what you're doing for your observations now. It's right on our website. I haven't got a copy of it. I can just show you what it looks like. It's basically the same thing, and it's an attachment that you'll attach now. But that's the same type of deal. You can do that one time, because most of that data isn't changing.